Well, hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to review for you all the 6 vitamin A derivatives that the Ordinary sells. Their retinols, including their GRANACTIVE retinoid, as they call it. Probably the second most evidence-based ingredient for improving the look of wrinkles, fine lines, photo-damaged skin, for having a true anti-aging benefit, aside from sunscreen, is going to be topical retinoic acid, aka tretinoin, and is available only by prescription. You also have now over-the-counter adapalene that you can buy over-the-counter. It's really affordable and have the same effects on the skin and are indicated for the treatment of acne, but also have similar anti-aging benefits. So adapalene is something that's available over-the-counter. You have your retinols that are something that, when applied to the skin, has to be oxidized to the ingredient retinaldehyde, that then has to be oxidized to the actual retinoic acid in order to have effect. So in other words, your skin has to do a lot of stuff to retinols in order for them to work and have the same effects that tretinoin would. After retinol, though, you can use a topical retinaldehyde like Retrin AL by Aven here. And that bypasses that first step that retinol has to go through, that oxidation step. You already have retinaldehyde. Retinaldehyde just has to be oxidized once, and therein you have retinoic acid. All right, so the Ordinary has 6 different retinols that you can pick and choose from. So they have a few retinols, and they also have this ingredient that they call GRANACTIVE retinoid. What the flip is that? That is an ester of retinoic acid. They make incredibly bold statements about this ingredient, and it drives me berserk. The ingredient is actually hydroxypinacolone retinoate. It's an ester of all trans-retinoic acid, or retin A. And they claim that it's a lot more stable than other retinols or retinaldehyde. That is an issue with retinols, is stability. They claim that it's a lot more stable. They claim that it is far, far less irritating than anything else that you could buy in the cosmeceutical market. And they claim that it is far more effective. I think those are some pretty bold statements given the paucity of literature that there is on this ingredient, but they're gonna make those claims because it sells more bottles of stuff. So in terms of HPR, there's like minimal to no data on this ingredient. I'll tell you what we have. There's an abstract that was presented at a meeting by Estee Lauder examining, doing some lab studies on this ingredient. They showed that in skin models, the HPR, or the GRANACTIVE retinoid, does in fact activate gene transcription like other vitamin A derivatives. That's how vitamin A works, by the way. Is once it's taken up into the skin, it binds to specific receptors, and that influences gene transcription. So the genes that are synthesized, in other words, and helps the skin cells behave more appropriately and helps with skin cell turnover. But anyways, so in this study, they showed that some of the same gene transcripts that are upregulated with tretinoin are in fact upregulated with topical application of HPR, more so than topical application of either retinol or retinaldehyde. However, the extent of gene transcription was not anywhere near as robust as retinoic acid, retin A. But it looks like, based on this lab assay that was presented at a meeting, so it's not even peer-reviewed data. It's an industry study that was presented at a meeting, hasn't even been written up in a paper that has been published or peer-reviewed. But more importantly, they did show that HPR leads to an increase in collagen production. In terms of outcomes on a cellular level, that's about where the data stops with that abstract that you'll find in the literature, that industry abstract. There aren't really papers in PubMed that look at this ingredient to support the claims that they're making. What about clinical data, meaning in actual people? Again, very, very little. There are 2 papers on PubMed using this ingredient in patients, demonstrating essentially that it is tolerable, that they tolerate it. But you can't make any conclusions about its efficacy. Basically, this group looked at applying this to the skin of patients who had acne and had gone through a course of Accutane. They were kind of using it as a maintenance ingredient. And they basically showed that it was tolerated well and seemed to be effective in terms of keeping the acne controlled after a course of Accutane, but like really that means nothing. I mean, after a course of Accutane, a lot of people's acne is controlled and they don't need anything. And so that doesn't really tell us much. They didn't compare it to anything else. So really all it tells us is that it's well tolerated on human skin in actual people, and there were no adverse side effects. So it does kind of support the statements that this is well tolerated, but again, they didn't compare it. It's not like this study, they gave some people HPR and some people retinol and showed that the HPR was easier for the patients to tolerate. So the statement that the Ordinary makes, that it's like the easiest to tolerate, the least side effects, and the most effective. Can you see how those statements are really just not substantiated whatsoever? And they're really bold statements. Okay, so getting into their products, you're like, good God, why did we have to sit through all of that verbiage? So you understand why I'm about to be like, these are kind of bogus. First up, we have the GRANACTIVE Retinoid 2% Emulsion. Now this has 2 vitamin A ingredients. It's got their 2% HPR, which I just told you is like hand waving at this point, and it has an encapsulated retinol. Now retinol is an ingredient for which we do have a lot of literature to support its use as an anti-aging ingredient. It's not as effective as tretinoin, but it definitely is a lot less irritating and easier to tolerate, and with ongoing use can be effective for improving the look of wrinkles and fine lines. But this particular product, they don't disclose the percentage strength of their encapsulated retinol. In my opinion, that's where the money's at though. If you're looking at these products, to me, it's to use the retinol, not the HPR. The HPR is like chasing a rainbow, given the dearth of literature. They put their products in, this particular product has Tasmania fruit in it. Anytime there's a fruit extract or a plant extract, that always increases the risk and likelihood that a product is gonna cause problems for people. And in the case of using it in combination with vitamin A, whether it be their HPR or Mumbo combo or encapsulated retinol, it increases the likelihood if the person develops irritation. It also increases the likelihood that that irritation and whatnot will compromise the efficacy and stability of the vitamin A. So, you know, I wouldn't have made it with that, and maybe it's rich in antioxidants that help stabilize the vitamin A in the bottle, but it can still probably potentially cause problems for people when they put it on their skin. The next two, I've got one of them here actually. The next two are just reiterations of the same thing, but different percentages. It's just the GRANACTIVE Retinoid, just HPR. A 2% strength and a 5% strength. And I kind of already pointed out the fact that I think HPR is bogus. I don't see enough literature, and they were like overhyping it, and I wouldn't go chasing after it. These two products, the GRANACTIVE 5% and the GRANACTIVE 2%, they don't have retinol in them. They just have HPR. They've got a 2% and a 5% of the HPR. And so to the consumer, it's like, well, the 2% is probably gonna be less irritating than the 5%, or I'm using the 2% and I'm not seeing any results, so maybe I should try the 5%. Like, they're gonna keep you hanging on. But I've told you guys in other videos before that we know other cosmeceutical ingredients, and not only cosmeceutical ingredients, but prescription drug medications applied topically to the skin, they have a threshold of efficacy, and in which beyond that, going at higher doses is not getting you better results, and in fact can compromise efficacy of the ingredient, period. So don't ever fall for that fallacy, higher percentage strength is better. Paula's Choice tried to play that trick on you guys with the niacinamide at like what, 20%, when the data is only using it at 4 and 5 and showing good results. Like, what makes you think 20% is necessarily going to be more effective? Without the data, you should always question that. Another problem with the HPR data, what little there is of it, is we don't have anything in actual people looking at kind of pharmacokinetics, absorption and distribution of HPR like we do with tretinoin, retin-A, adapalene, and to a certain extent also with retinols and retinaldehydes. Meaning we don't really know at what percentage strength this ingredient is needed in order to get it into the skin well. And don't fall for that fallacy that higher is better. With a lot of active ingredients, the higher the percentage strength, sometimes it compromises the penetration of the ingredient. When it comes to retinol and retinaldehyde, we do have studies that examine some of the pharmacokinetics in terms of absorption at different percentage strengths. Specifically, these studies look at activation of an enzyme called cytochrome P450 dependent retinoic acid dehydrogenase 4. This enzyme basically is an indicator of retinoic acid activity and is kind of a secondary indicator of absorption. So basically they put on the active ingredient and they look for this enzyme activity, and that gives them some idea of absorption and efficacy. We don't have that for HPR. But what we've learned from retinol and retinaldehyde is that higher is not necessarily better. Beyond 0.025% for both retinol and retinaldehyde, diminishing returns as far as activity of that enzyme, suggesting that you need at least 0.025% of those ingredients, but that higher may not get you much further. Both products are formulated in squalane, as well as jojoba seed oil and tomato fruit extract, as well as rosemary. The rosemary is probably a preservative and antioxidant to stabilize the HPR, but can cause irritation, especially tomato fruit. And you know, it's kind of bogus. It's like on their website, they explicitly state that plant oils can degrade vitamin A derivatives and that their products don't have any plant oils. What the flip mode squad is jojoba seed oil then? Is that not a plant? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is a tomato not a plant? I mean, I don't get tomato, they're not using tomato seed oil, but like tomato can still cause irritation on the skin. And that can compromise the stability of the vitamin A. So I mean, they're kind of putting their foot in their mouth with that one. Moving down the ladder, we have their retinols. There's retinol at 0.2%, retinol at 0.5%, and retinol at 1%. And all of these are in identical vehicles, meaning the inactive ingredients are all the same. Again, the tomato, the rosemary, the jojoba, as well as squalane. And so here, you know, they're trying again they even say on the website, like, we don't recommend these, we recommend the HPR, the more expensive one, less well studied. But, you know, they kind of try and make you believe that the 1% may be more irritating than the 0.5%, than the 0.2%. And that could be true, that could be true. Higher percentages probably do have a little bit more irritation. The cosmeceutical marketing really, I think, makes consumers believe that they can't use a retinoid, that it's too much, it's too strong, they have to use a cosmeceutical. When in fact, adapalene is probably one of the most well-tolerated retinoids out there. It's very, very well tolerated, very low irritation. Does that mean that everybody's gonna tolerate it? No, some people still have issue with this. But like, to me, instead of going through all 6 of these, playing around, spinning your wheels, try this. It's the most evidence-based thing you can buy over the counter for anti-aging as well as for acne control. And we know it works, we know it gets into the skin, we know what receptors it binds to beta and gamma receptors. Like, why are you even wasting your time? I get it, it can still be irritating for some people, and for some of you who watch me outside of the US, you can't get this over the counter. In which case, I recommend retinaldehyde. I mean, it just has to be oxidized to retinoic acid. So this is very gentle, very gentle. But the market is so saturated with 50 million retinols, it's impossible to compare every single one or to really know how in terms of the efficacy, it's not like in lab studies or in clinical trials, they're comparing all of these cosmeceutical retinols to one another as far as anti-aging effects, binding to receptors, penetration, all of these things that matter. So like, why, you know, don't fall for the marketing around them. I have the most confidence in L'Oreal. The CeraVe retinol, I think, is a great choice if you want a retinol. Neutrogena retinols are fantastic. I have a lot of confidence in Johnson & Johnson. Like, these big corporations that have a lot of money and backing and massive labs for R&D, and these ingredients have been around for a long time, and we have at least some clinical experience, albeit some of it's anecdotal, with people using these ingredients, versus this hasn't been around very long. Paucity of data, the HPR I'm talking about, paucity of data on I just don't think consumers should get wrapped up in it. I think it's diminishing returns. Instead, focus on sun protection, getting 8 hours of sleep, eating your fruits and vegetables, don't drink too much alcohol, don't smoke, and get some exercise. Honestly, do you honestly believe that this is gonna do more for you than those lifestyle things? It's not. It's not. In terms of skincare, the most robust evidence-based thing that you can do to keep your skin looking young and healthy as far as a product is sun protection. Second to that is retinoic acid. And you can go down this path of cosmeceutical vitamin A derivatives, but sometimes it's just too much. It's a lifestyle factor though. That's really where it's at. So anyways, guys, when it comes to The Ordinary, I get requests from you all the time to review their products. I reviewed several of them a long time ago. Matter of fact, I know I reviewed like their dietary supplement. I personally use the Natural Moisturizing Factor plus HA. I really like that product. I honestly think some of the products have gotten better since when I first reviewed them, especially that one. I swear, when I first tried that product, it pilled and balled, and now it seems like it's been revamped slightly and tweaked. I don't know if it's just in my head, but I like that. It works well for me, and it's a good moisturizer, and it's inexpensive. They also have that AHA, BHA peeling solution that I reviewed, I think in my blackhead mask video. It's decent if you want a short contact time with beta hydroxy acid and alpha hydroxy acid for improving blackheads. I think it's useful in that manner. The last point that I'll make about 5 of the Ordinary's vitamin A derivatives, everything with the exception of the emulsion. So the emulsion is the mix of HPR and the encapsulated retinol. All of the products are in squalane, which is fine. It is a lightweight oil. I have a video all about it. It tends to go over well with people with acne prone skin. It's very stable. So, I mean, it's a pretty good vehicle, I guess you would say, for vitamin A. I don't have any concern about that, aside from the fact there is some thought, as I mentioned in my squalane video, that because squalane is a natural component of our sebum, aka oil, that for people with acne, it might potentially, when applied topically, cause more problems for their acne. We don't have any data to substantiate that topical squalane aggravates acne. A lot of people will report they love it, they can't live without it, but some people are like, get that away from me, I cannot deal with it. So, you know, if you're easily irritated by it, then these products are not gonna be right for you. Anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful in kind of clarifying the different Ordinary vitamin A derivatives. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.